The thing about cooking is, it becomes muscle memory. I didn't need a recipe for Nana's sweet potato casserole. My hands remembered how she whipped the cream cheese, how she dotted the top with pecans instead of marshmallows because we're not children, Abigail. And yet there I was, 55 years old, sweating over the same dishes I'd been making for 30. Thanksgiving straight. 18. That's how many I cooked this time. Not exaggerated, not poetic. 18 actual dishes, from appetizers to pies, made with cracked knuckles and a smile that felt glued on. And still, somehow, there was no chair for me. I stood at the threshold between the kitchen and the dining room, a heavy plate in hand, mashed potatoes sculpted into a neat dome, carrots glistening under a honey glaze, cranberry sauce bleeding into the turkey breast. My stomach rumbled. My knees ached. I hadn't sat down since sunrise. Yet the dining room looked like a Thanksgiving postcard. Gold chargers, wine glasses raised, laughter, like I was watching the memory of someone else's family. Carl was leaning back in his chair, telling some story I'd heard a dozen times. About the time his brother got lost camping. His voice got loud when he was trying to impress. He didn't look at me. "Oh, sorry, Abby. I guess we miscounted chairs again." Linda's voice sliced through the noise like a butter knife. She was in Carl's old hoodie and red lipstick, swirling wine with the kind of elegance you could only learn from pretending. I blinked. "Again?" I asked softly, but no one heard me. No one even looked up. I stood frozen for a second, still holding the plate like a waitress whose table was full. And then, a high-pitched giggle. I turned just in time to see Caitlin, my 16-year-old niece, lifting her phone, recording, laughing. "Guys, this is hilarious," she said. "She cooked everything and didn't get a seat. Like, what even is this?" She was already typing the caption. "Thanksgiving fail. As kinda chef no seat." She wasn't being cruel. Not on purpose. She was just entertained. And that hurt even more. I looked down at the plate in my hand. Perfect. Balanced. Warm. Like I'd carved a little piece of my soul and roasted it at 350 degrees. I looked up. No one had stopped her. Not Carl. Not Evan. Not a single guest paused their story or glanced in my direction. That's when it hit me. They weren't family. They were spectators. And I was the show. I took one step back, walked to the kitchen counter, and set the plate down. Slowly. Deliberately. Then I straightened up, walked upstairs, pulled my old leather weekender bag from the closet, and started folding clothes. 5 minutes. That's how long it took to erase myself. I heard the party still going strong downstairs. Silverware scraping plates. Someone saying, "We should do this every year." I zipped the bag, grabbed my purse, and walked to the door. And when I opened it, nothing. No one stopped me. No one called out, "Where are you going?" Not even my husband. Outside, the night air was crisp, cold enough to sting, but not enough to bite. The stars looked fake, like someone pasted them across the sky for dramatic effect. I got in my car and started driving. No destination, no map, just forward. I passed the house one more time as I looped the street. I could still see the warm yellow lights through the front windows, the silhouettes, the laughter, the shadow of Caitlin dancing in the hallway, probably recording another update for her followers. And in that moment, I didn't feel sad. I felt free. It was almost comical, really. I had fed them, clothed them, sacrificed vacations, hobbies, promotions, all so they could sit comfortably while I stood holding a plate with no place to land. But maybe that was the point. Maybe they liked me better that way. Always busy, always quiet, always too tired to ask for more. They didn't expect me to leave, and they sure didn't expect what would come next. The freeway unspooled under my headlights like silver ribbon. I didn't play music. The thrum of the engine felt loud enough. On the passenger seat sat two things: a weekender bag and a prepaid Visa card I'd grabbed near the gas station coffee machine. My regular wallet, with the grocery store loyalty cards, the family insurance folder, the half-punch cafe coupon, stayed behind on purpose. The farther I drove, the lighter my chest felt, almost helium strange. At mile marker 82, I caught myself humming. Was that relief or shock? Hard to tell. A vacancy sign blinked outside a budget motel, peach neon against starless sky. I pulled in, paid cash under a plastic window, and carried my bag down a corridor that smelled like chlorine and old fries. The room itself looked startled to see me. Beige walls, floral bedspread, a TV the size of a carry-on. I shut the door, flicked the bolt, and everything went silent. No dishwasher clatter, no TikTok giggle, no relentless mom. Where's my... I stood there, listening to nothing. My heart kept waiting for a demand that never came. You should feel miserable, the inner critic whispered. So why do you feel... buoyant? I didn't answer. I just breathed. At 3 a.m., I finally powered down my phone. Not airplane mode, off. The black screen felt ceremonial, like lowering a flag. I slid the device into the ice bucket and covered it with a washcloth, just to stop myself from grazing the screen out of habit. I slept in my clothes, woke at dawn, and stared at the stucco ceiling while the question looped. What happens when a lifelong satellite cuts contact with its planet? Does it spin out of control, or finally discover gravity of its own? The motel lobby served weak coffee and individually wrapped muffins. I carried both back to my room and opened my laptop. Old, dented, but completely mine. First step, change passwords. Bank, email, grocery delivery app, even the streaming service Carl insisted was his. Click, 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 account after account. Felt like soaring off ropes, one strand at a time. Second step, joint checking. I logged in, transferred half, my legal share, to an all-new solo account the bank let me open online. My hand actually shook when I hit confirm. Not from guilt, from adrenaline. A tiny notification popped up. Carl Dawson just signed in from another device. I almost laughed. 3 hours, and he'd noticed the funds move. Predictable. Ghosting the whole family. That's intense. Grace's voice crackled through the motel's landline. Yes, an actual corded phone. She was my oldest friend. We used to sneak cigarettes behind the band room in high school. She listened while I described the chairless dinner, the TikTok, the exit. She blew out a slow breath. You always were the quiet one. I guess they forgot quiet doesn't mean weak. Silence, and then, I want you to call somebody. Her name's Elena Pierce. Family law bulldog, specializes in coercive control. I whispered the phrase back, tasting every syllable. Trust me, Grace said. She's the fire alarm nobody wants to hear. The motel phone rang at 2:07 p.m. I nearly jumped. Not my cell. I'd shut that off and buried it in my sock drawer. This was the landline, the kind of call that felt like it came from another century, or another version of me entirely. Abigail. The voice was velvet-wrapped steel. Elena. Just finished combing through everything. 30 years of unpaid labor, emotional isolation, financial control under one name, his. You are, without a doubt, a textbook case. My fingers gripped the phone cord, suddenly too tight. So, what happens next? We file. Petition for dissolution. Motion for asset redistribution. A protective order if we need it. My throat went dry. Do judges even care about that stuff? The feelings part? There was a pause on her end. Then, calm thunder. Feelings are evidence. Every ignored request, every logged transaction in his name, every voicemail where he dismisses you like an employee, admissible. Social media, even more so. That TikTok your niece posted? Gold. I sat down slowly on the bed, the mattress groaning beneath me. He's going to lose it, I muttered. He'll call the neighbors. He'll say I'm making it all up. He might, she said. He'll likely try to paint you as fragile. Ungrateful. Vindictive. That word stung. I wasn't vindictive. Was I? And Evan, I whispered, he's still my son. And he's a grown man. If he chooses to stand beside a man who erased his mother's name from the electricity bill, that's his decision. Silence. You do realize, Elena added gently, once we file, your husband will escalate. I closed my eyes. pictured Carl's mouth thinning into that tight-lipped frown, him pacing the kitchen, pointing at his phone, shouting at Evan to fix this PR disaster. "I'm ready," I said before I could second-guess it. It was quiet on her end for a beat. Then, "Good. Ghost mode won't last forever. Let's turn the lights on," pointed at him. Night 3, I ventured to a 24-hour laundromat with a pocket full of quarters. While the machines groaned, I checked a public computer. Evan's Facebook page was open to the world. Classic rookie mistake. The top post froze my fingers. "Has anybody seen my mum? She left Thanksgiving and never came home. We're worried about her safety." Hundreds of reactions, sad faces, praying hand emojis, nosy neighbors asking for updates. Not one mention of the missing chair, the giggling niece, the unpaid buffet. Scrolling further, I found a local news article. Police search for missing woman, last seen leaving family dinner. Carl's quote glared back at me. "We just want her home where she belongs." Home? Or service station? I slammed the browser shut and felt the spin cycle of the washer sync with my pulse. An elderly man across the aisle raised an eyebrow. I managed a polite smile. They're worried about losing the chef, not the woman. The thought landed like a pin through fabric, securing everything in place. Day 5, a knock rattled my motel door. Heart in throat, I peered through the peephole. A uniformed officer, alone. I opened a crack. His tone was rehearsed kindness. "Ma'am, we have a missing persons report. Your family is—" I cut him off softly. "Officer, I'm not missing. I'm sober, unharmed, and over 50. Could you note that in your file?" He hesitated, probably not the script he expected. I handed him my driver's license, let him see the tidy room, the coffee maker, the folded bedspread. He radioed headquarters while I waited. On his way out, he said, "They'll be relieved." "Tell them," I said, "that relief hasn't looked my way in years." He nodded, something between respect and confusion, and left. When the door latched, I exhaled so hard I startled myself. My lungs had been holding courtroom air for decades. On the 7th morning, I checked out. The clerk slid my receipt across the counter. "Staying with us again next holiday," he joked. I smiled politely. Next holiday, I thought. I'll be busy celebrating my own existence. I drove to Grace's tiny bungalow 2 towns over. She stepped onto the porch, holding 2 steaming mugs and a folder thick with printed emails. She hugged me, tight. "You're safe. Now we make you powerful." In her kitchen, we spread papers like war maps, screenshots of Caitlin's viral TikTok, already at 4 million views, bank statements proving Carl's micromanagement, a timeline of dismissive texts. "Just pick up any turkey. Why are you so dramatic? Stop making everything about you." Grace tapped a line. "Public humiliation plus digital evidence equals judicial cannonball." I stared at the pile. Part of me wanted to shove it all away, crawl into a soft quilt of denial. Another part, louder every hour, wanted the gavel to hit wood so hard the reverberation reached every corner of that dining room. Which voice would win? Grace slid a pen across the table. "Sign the retainer. The rest will follow." My hand hovered. I remembered Linda's shrug, Carl's averted eyes, Evan's distracted thumbs. Then I remembered the motel silence and how, for the first time, I'd heard my own breathing. I signed. Ink dried fast. That night, curled on Grace's couch, I replayed the entire journey, from mashed potato mountain to motel chlorine to the officer's polite confusion. Could I really face court? Media? The possibility that the world might side with Carl? What if they call me ungrateful, overly sensitive, a runaway wife? Grace walked in with popcorn and saw the storm on my face. Second thoughts? I spent 30 years being background noise. What if... I don't know. I'm not built for center stage. She laughed softly. "Abigail, you already went viral without trying. The stage found you. Now decide what you'll say when the mic swings in your direction." I let that settle. Somewhere between the hum of her fridge and the pop of a kernel, I felt a new heartbeat. A drummer I'd never heard before, steady, insistent, mine, mine, mine. I fell asleep under a knitted blanket, phone still powered off. In the dark, I dreamed of a dining table set for one. A single chair pulled out, waiting. No gold chargers, no crystal goblets. Just warm soup and a folded napkin. In the dream, I sat, tasted the soup, and smiled. Because it was finally seasoned for me. The doorbell still chimed the same tin toy melody Carl installed years ago, but this time it sounded like a countdown. Eleanor Pierce, sleek suit, coffee-colored briefcase, composure set to Ice Queen, stood beside me on the porch. She tilted her head. Deep breath, Abby. Remember, you're not asking for scraps, you're collecting a debt. I exhaled into the cool air. Let's cash in. Linda opened the door mid-giggle, probably expecting another neighbor with a condolence casserole. Her laugh evaporated when she saw me. The wineglass tipped, liquid sloshed onto her blouse. She blinked hard. You disappeared. We thought that I'd crawl back alone. I stepped past her spill. I brought company. Elena offered a polite nod. Ms. Dawson, attorney of record. She handed Linda a business card like a surgical glove. Carl hurried from the living room, eyes darting between Eleanor's briefcase and my overnight bag. Abigail, we can discuss whatever you need without. Did you miss your maid? My words sliced quieter than a whisper. Let's talk property split. Evan lingered at the archway, phone in hand, cheeks colorless. He opened his mouth, closed it, then drifted backward as though swallowed by wallpaper. We sat at the dining table, the same one that had no chair for me a week ago. Now 4 chairs were empty. Only Carl, Linda, Elena, and I remained. My plateless place had a front row view. Elena clicked open the briefcase. Mr. Dawson, these are the filings: petition for dissolution, request for protective order, and preliminary financial disclosures. Carl's jaw twitched. A protective order? Against your own husband? Against my former employer, I corrected softly. Linda's eyes widened. She can't be serious. Elena slid a document across. Economic abuse, coercive control, public humiliation, complete with video evidence. She tapped the TikTok printout Caitlin posted. 6 million views noted in bold. Carl snatched the paper. This is a child's prank. Hardly grounds for demonstrating the dynamic. Elena's tone never rose. Precisely. I watched him read. His lips formed a thin line, the color draining like wet paint. A familiar stab of doubt pricked my ribs. Is this too harsh? But I pictured the empty chair, and the doubt withered. Carl attempted a pitch-perfect sigh. Abigail, why didn't you just tell me how you felt? I did, every year. You called it overreacting. Linda leaned forward, voice syrupy. We can fix this quietly. No reason to destroy a whole marriage. I met her gaze. The marriage wasn't a vase we dropped. It was a cage we polished. Evan shuffled in, arms folded. Mom, the neighbors are talking. Can't we go upstairs and discuss privately? I shook my head. Conversations happened upstairs for 30 years. This time it's in daylight. The next afternoon we sat in family court. Neutral walls, ticking clock, judge in navy robe instead of black, holiday docket. Carl's attorney, a silver-bearded man, tried small talk. Carl ignored him, scrolling feverishly on his phone. Maybe drafting a statement for the neighborhood group. The judge called our case. Elena's opening sounded like she was reading a bedtime story. Calm, factual, undeniable. Unpaid labor hours, receipts in Carl's name for my sewing machine, texts dismissing my requests for medical copays, the viral video. Carl's lawyer objected. The video is irrelevant hype. Elena replied, relevance. Exhibit C demonstrates humiliation used to enforce economic dependence. Viewers coined the hashtag Justice for Aunt Abby. Public opinion recognizes coercion. The court should too. The judge reviewed silently, then looked at Carl. Mr. Dawson, did you provide your spouse a place at the table after she prepared the meal? Carl's voice cracked. It was an oversight. An oversight broadcast to millions, the judge said. Noted. Protective order, granted. 100-foot radius. Carl's knuckles whitened around the podium. Asset division moved fast after that. Elena produced spreadsheets showing household savings funded partly by my quilting side business, small but traceable. The judge ordered immediate transfer of 50% liquid assets into my new account. Temporary use of the hybrid car. Exclusive occupancy of the guest house on the property until sale or buyout. Linda whispered under breath, "Guest house, that's my yoga space." I almost smiled. When the gavel came down, a sound like final punctuation, my lungs filled to the rim. Space, not metaphorical anymore, tangible as oxygen. Outside the courthouse, press had gathered, tipped off by local reporters chasing the TikTok saga. Microphones shot toward us. "Mrs. Dawson, did you really walk out without warning? Is the video accurate? Do you have a message for other homemakers?" For a second, the circle of lenses felt like Thanksgiving chairs. Everyone seated, me standing. Then I remembered Grace's words. "The stage found you." I breathed in. "Here's the thing," I said. "Cooking for people you love is a privilege. But love sets a place for the cook too. If it doesn't, leave the kitchen." Eleanor nudged me gently. "That's enough for today." She guided me to the car while cameras flashed. My pulse skittered, but beneath it all bloomed something warm, a seed of authority I'd never claimed before. Later, alone in the guest house, I unlocked the door to find movers already boxing Carl's framed orchestra posters. The space smelled like cedar and fresh paint. He'd used it mostly for storage. Now it was mine, at least for the next phase. I opened windows, let winter air roll in, and laughed under my breath. Weeks ago, I asked permission to buy a new stand mixer. Now I held keys to half a property. Evan texted that night, "Dad wants to know if you'll negotiate outside court." I read the message twice. Typed back, "Tell Dad negotiation left when respect did." 3 dots appeared, vanished. No reply. Still, victory tasted complicated. At 2 a.m., I sat on the bare mattress, legal folder open, wondering who I'd become. My reflection in the dark window looked taller somehow, but shadows pooled under my eyes. Did I regret detonating the life we built, or had it been rubble all along? A thud shook the porch. I stiffened. Protective order or not, adrenaline didn't care. I peeked through the side window. A paper bag rested against the doorframe, steam fogging the top. No footsteps in sight. I cracked the door. Inside the bag, clam chowder from the corner diner and a note in unsure handwriting. "Mom, I don't know what to say yet. Saw you skip dinner. Thought you might be hungry. E." I held the warm container. Tears blurred the ink. Part of me wanted to fling it back. Too little, too late. Another part heard his childhood lisp asking for more soup. I set the chowder on the table, unscrewed the lid. The scent of thyme drifted up, simple, honest. Maybe healing starts with soup for one. A week later, Carl tried pushing the boundary. I was browsing produce at Safeway when I felt a presence 2 aisles over. Turned to see him gripping a jar of olives, eyes darting like a trapped animal. He stepped forward, then froze, as if an invisible fence shocked him. The order worked. He turned away. As he left, a shopper nearby whispered, "Isn't that the Thanksgiving guy?" Her friend replied, "Yeah, internet says he made his wife cook and didn't feed her." Carl's shoulders curled inward. He abandoned the cart and hurried out, head low. I stood among oranges and thought, justice isn't always a courtroom thunderclap. Sometimes it's a murmur in the canned goods aisle. Closing on the house loomed next. Elena negotiated a buyout, so I'd take the guest cottage free and clear, plus a settlement that covered backdated spousal support. My account balance showed numbers I'd never seen with my name attached. Grace visited that evening, dropping groceries and sarcasm. "So how's exile in the in-law suite?" "Quiet," I grinned. "Perfect for plotting world domination." She hoisted a bag of flour. "World domination starts with fresh scones." We baked until midnight, laughter and cinnamon filling every corner. While dough rose, my phone buzzed. A notification from the talk show producer, Segment rerun pulled 1.2 million daytime viewers. You struck a chord. Would you consider a follow-up? Life after leaving? I stared at the screen. The old me would have panicked. Too exposed, too loudly human. The new me typed, "Let's discuss dates." The settlement hearing finalized on a blustery Tuesday. Carl signed without eye contact. Outside the courthouse he paused, wind flattening his tie. "I never meant to hurt you," he muttered. Intent suddenly felt irrelevant. "We shape what we permit," I answered. And I permitted too much. He opened his mouth again, maybe to apologize, maybe to defend, but a gust scattered his words. I walked to Elena's car, each step lighter. That night, I unlocked my own front door, the cottage now legally mine. I set a single place at the small kitchen table, roasted vegetables, salad, a slice of store-bought pie. I folded a cloth napkin, poured iced tea, and sat. Silence wrapped around me like a soft shawl. I took the first bite of freedom, tasted like rosemary, like possibility, and somewhere beyond the cedars, a dining room full of gold chargers sat strangely empty, wondering how a missing chair could make the whole table collapse. I lifted my glass to the window. Here's to air, to space, to myself. My motel TV didn't carry social media, but the lobby had free Wi-Fi, and nerves were cheaper than coffee. I typed TikTok.com into the browser, heart pounding like a drum solo. The search bar auto-corrected after 3 letters. Chef Nosy at Thanksgiving. First result, Caitlin's 30-second clip. The thumbnail froze on my face, plate balanced, eyes searching for a chair that wasn't there. I almost closed the tab. Curiosity pinned my finger to the touchpad. The video rolled. Caitlin's giggle opened the scene. "My aunt cooked 18 dishes and still doesn't have a seat. Send help." The camera panned from my hands to Carl's smug grin. Someone off-screen toasted, "Family first." Then the frame zoomed on me again, shoulders sagging under invisible weight. 6 million views. My pulse spiked. Comment bubbles flew like confetti. "How do you forget the chef?" "Put some respect on Aunt Abby's name." "Sis, walk out and take the stuffing." "Justice for Aunt Abby." Part of me wanted to melt into the laminate floor. Another part felt 10 feet tall. Strangers saw what family refused to. The notification counter flipped, new duet. A woman in a neon pink hoodie appeared, pausing the clip at my lonely stance. She pointed to the freeze frame. "This right here is every grandma who's ever been treated like free labor. We see you, Aunt Abby. You're a mood, a movement, a martyr." Her words hit me like a cymbal crash. A movement? I was just a tired woman holding potatoes. Within hours, nurtured Justice for Aunt Tabby trended. People filmed themselves pulling up an extra chair at their Thanksgiving tables. Others stitched recipes with captions. "If Aunt Abby shows, she sits first." Grace called, breathless. "You're viral, babe." I pressed the phone to my ear. "Does viral come with hazard pay?" She laughed. "It comes with inboxes exploding. Check your email." Buried among retail coupons was a subject line in all caps. "Morning Women's Hour, while Janine, urgent request." My thumb hovered. National daytime TV felt galaxies away from my motel bedspread, but I clicked. Janine's producer wrote, "We're planning a Thanksgiving redemption special. Your story resonates with millions. Travel and lodging covered." She asked for a reply by midnight. I stared at the screen. My reflection in the dark monitor looked half terrified, half lit. Was I ready to turn a private wound into public cautionary tale? Grace answered for me. "Say yes before they book the cranberry sauce scandal lady." 3 days later, a black SUV whisked me to a Manhattan studio. In the green room, 2 other guests paced with nervous smiles. One carried a manila envelope labeled "Divorce at Dessert." The other scrolled her phone, muttering about takeout revenge. She looked up. "You're Aunt Abby, right? My mother's obsessed with you." "That sentence will never feel normal." I laughed, nerves bubbling. "What's your story?" "My daughter-in-law catered the whole meal, then claimed she cooked it. I exposed her." She grinned. "Internet has spoken." Apparently it does that a lot, I said. A makeup artist dabbed concealer under my eyes. The camera loves redemption arcs, she whispered. Just breathe. Outside the double doors, I heard Janine's voice count down. And we're back in 5. Spotlights cast halos on the stage. My palms sweated inside borrowed silk sleeves. The producer hissed, "Places!" We filed out. The applause felt like a gust of wind. I fought the instinct to step backward. Janine opened with warm eyes. "America, you fell in love with Aunt Abby, our Thanksgiving hero who finally took a seat outside her family's house." Laughter rippled through the audience. I gripped my index cards, blank, in case my mind erased itself. Janine asked the divorce at dessert guest to share first. Papers over pumpkin pie. Audience gasped. Then came the takeout exposé. Fake gravy, real drama. My cue arrived. Janine leaned in. "Abby, walk us through the moment you realized you were done." I inhaled. Picture spending 2 days cooking. Your feet throb, your hands sting, and you look up. Every chair is taken, and no one notices you're standing. Low murmurs spread like waves. "Did anyone apologize?" Janine asked. "No, they were too busy filming the punchline." I turned to the live audience. So I left, not to be petty, but to be present in my own life. And sometimes the best thing you can cook, I paused, felt the hush thicken, is an exit. The audience erupted, cheers, claps, a few tears glistening under stage lights. Janine pressed a hand to her heart. Backstage afterward, Janine squeezed my hand. "You gave older women a battle cry." I exhaled. "Feels surreal." "Feel it anyway," she said. "People will dine out on this courage." The segment hit afternoon replay, then YouTube. Comment sections flooded with stories. Grandmothers demanding chairs, aunts splitting holiday costs, college kids mailing thank you notes to the family cooks. A baker in Oregon renamed her signature pie the Abby Exit and promised 10% of proceeds to domestic abuse nonprofits. But public love came with shadows. Carl texted at 2 a.m. "The whole town is laughing at us. Call me." I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Did I owe him conversation, closure, or did the protective order draw its own bold line? I set the phone face down. 2 weeks later, the show invited me back for a virtual Q&A. I sat in Grace's living room, laptop balanced on pillows, as Janine opened a Zoom grid of viewers. A woman in pearls spoke first. "I'm 62, cooked 25 Thanksgivings, never once sat before everyone else. This year I will." My chest tightened. "I hope you wear comfy slippers while you do." Laughter. A younger voice chimed in. "Mom always eats last. Sending her this clip." An elderly man appeared, face tentative. "My wife cooks. I pull her chair out first. That's normal, right?" I smiled. "Sir, you're trending upward." The session ended, chat exploded with heart emojis, and I closed the laptop. Victory tasted like chamomile, warm, slightly bittersweet, yet self-doubt visited at night, persistent as the motel ice machine. I'd scroll through comments, lingering on the lone critic. She dramatized it for clout. Another, probably a staged stunt. Seated at my tiny cottage table, I whispered to the dark, "Did I overplay? Or just finally press play?" Grace, half asleep in the doorway, answered, "You pressed pause on their narrative. That's not drama, that's editing." I breathed easier. The next morning, a package arrived, no return address. Inside, a walnut dining chair, its backrest carved with the words, "Reserved for the one who cooks." A note slipped between the slats. "From strangers who saved you a seat." Tears blurred the wood grain. I placed the chair at my kitchen table, opposite my own seat. Some evenings I set a plate there, a reminder that space, once claimed, stays open. Carl's house sold within the month. Rumor said he moved to a rental by the interstate. Fewer neighbors, less small talk. Linda relocated to Find Energy in Sedona. Caitlin stopped posting TikToks for a while. Maybe reflecting, maybe rebranding. Evan visited quietly one Sunday. He hovered on the porch, hands stuffed in jacket pockets. Mum, the internet loves you. I'm learning to love me too. He stared at the carved chair. Mind if I sit? I hesitated, then nodded. He traced the letters with his fingertips. I didn't understand, he murmured. I thought you were just... Mum. I am Mum, I said, and also Abby. He swallowed hard. I'm sorry I filmed nothing while they filmed everything. Apology lingered like fragile glass between us. I didn't rush to pick it up, but I left it unbroken. We shared tea in gentle silence. He left with leftovers, and I watched him walk down the drive, shoulders lower, but maybe lighter. That night, I opened a blank document. Title bar blinked. Sometimes the best thing you can cook. I began typing the first chapter of a memoir I never planned. Because stories rise from ovens and paper alike, and I'd spent too long letting someone else taste test my worth. Page 1. Reserve a seat for yourself. Always. If the table runs out of chairs, don't forget the door is wide enough for one empowered exit. I didn't go back for Christmas. Not for Easter either. Or even Evan's birthday, though I mailed him a card with a handwritten message and a check folded neatly inside. He never cashed it. That stung more than I expected, but I stayed away. Completely. And on the following Thanksgiving, I didn't cook, didn't peel, baste, bake, or coordinate oven schedules. I bought a frozen pizza, popped it in the oven, and lit a single candle on my kitchen table. It wasn't ceremonial. It was peaceful. Halfway through my second slice, I did something reckless. I opened Facebook. I hadn't logged in for months. I didn't want to scroll past pictures of smiling people who'd once walked right past me with full plates and zero acknowledgement. But something told me, check the neighborhood group. I searched the name, Oak Grove Families and Friends. It loaded slowly, as if deciding whether I deserved to see what waited there. And then, there it was, a post, freshly uploaded by a neighbor 3 doors down. Anyone else's Thanksgiving food taste like cardboard? Linda tried, bless her heart, but it just wasn't the same. We miss the flavor. We miss Abby. My finger hovered above the screen. I blinked. There were already 17 comments. Her stuffing was like wet paper towels. They had to put the turkey back in the oven, twice. Someone brought store-bought pie. We left before dessert. It was cold, not the food, the vibe. I leaned back in my chair and took a long sip of wine. Dry, bold, just right. Another post appeared below it, a photo, their annual family portrait. Everyone posed in front of the fireplace, same as always, except this time, the space where I'd usually be standing, third from the left, hands folded, smile doing overtime, was filled by a tall, decorative candle holder. They hadn't even moved the camera to compensate. It looked like a mistake, a gap, an echo, and suddenly I realized my absence had become a presence. It wasn't revenge, not really, but I would be lying if I said it didn't feel like a quiet victory. The kind where no one claps, but everyone notices something's missing. Funny how the person who'd once been treated like background noise could leave, and suddenly the whole sound changed. I read more comments. It just didn't feel like Thanksgiving without Abby's sweet potato casserole. She always put out those little name cards. No one did that this year. Abby made things feel warm. No, I wasn't tagged. No one said it to me directly. But it didn't matter. They weren't talking to me. They were talking around me. And that meant they were finally noticing the shape of the hole I'd left behind. I closed the laptop. The candle flickered softly in the middle of my table. My plate was empty. My feet were up. No timers, no demands. No one filming me with a snide laugh and a hashtag. And as I sat in the silence, I thought, this year I didn't get applause, but I finally got a seat. People love saying it like it's some kind of comfort. You're stronger than you think. But strength isn't a light switch you flip on when the house is burning. It's quieter than that, more patient. Sometimes it shows up as the moment you don't answer the phone. The moment you leave a chair empty and don't rush to fill it. The moment you walk out and don't look back. I used to think strength meant enduring. Now I know. Sometimes strength is simply stopping. stopping the performance, stopping the appeasing, stopping the erasing of yourself for the comfort of others. People asked why I didn't scream, why I didn't cause a scene at that Thanksgiving table. But honestly, I didn't need to. The silence did it for me. When the chair sat empty, when the turkey didn't taste right, when the guests went home early and nobody laughed in the kitchen. That silence, that was me, finally heard. A friend texted me a photo recently from someone's family group chat. It was a forwarded meme that said, "If your aunt disappears mid-dinner, check if you gave her a seat." Underneath was my photo, me holding that plate, no chair in sight. They didn't even know it was me. They were sharing a lesson, not a woman. But still, that was my face. I wasn't the ghost anymore. I was the headline. These days, I live alone, happily. I've got a tiny backyard garden, a lemon tree that only gave me one fruit this year, and a little blog called Table for One. I write recipes, but really, I write freedom into flour. I tell people how to cook for themselves like they're worth the effort, because they are, always were. And every Thanksgiving, like clockwork, I post a recipe. Sometimes it's cranberry galette, sometimes it's leftover stuffing hash, but the note at the bottom is always the same. Leave a seat for the woman who made the meal, or she might just take the whole damn kitchen with her. And trust me, if she does, she won't be cooking for applause. She'll be cooking because she finally knows who she is.